This is a lecture from Open Tuition. For the free lecture notes that go with this podcast, please visit opentuition.com.
Now we're going to look briefly at the claimed advantages and disadvantages of strategic planning. It must be emphasized you will not in the exam be asked to reproduce these lists just as a single task. It's more likely to be dressed up slightly, like advise a manager or management why some sorts of strategic planning might be advantageous, or perhaps to criticize an organization's approach to strategic planning. And this, therefore, provides a good framework for those sort of questions. First, strategic planning establishes long-term objectives for the organization and plans for achieving those objectives. Everyone really dealing with the organization likes to know where the organization is going. It could be that your job you're worried about, or your prospects you're worried about, or maybe you want to invest in a company and want to know what its plans for the futures are. No one likes kind of floating around in a bit of a vacuum, not knowing what the company is planning to do, or what it wants to achieve, or perhaps what sort of areas it might be going into. And then if you set a plan for 5 years, generally what happens is you say where you're going to be after 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year and so on. It provides a kind of roadmap, so to speak, of how the ultimate strategies may or may not be achieved. Secondly, the organization is much better coordinated. When surveys are done of companies asking, do you do strategic planning, and if so, what are the advantages? Very close to the top of the list always is coordination. We've all dealt with or perhaps been employed by organizations which are chaotic, and it doesn't give a great feeling of either confidence or indeed job satisfaction. Here we know that if you are going to be selling 10,000 units, we have a plan somewhere of making or acquiring 10,000 units, and we deliver 10,000 units. Without a plan, you're all heading in different directions. With a plan, we're all heading in the same direction. It might be over the cliff, but at least you're going with friends. It can take time to implement new plans. A lot of plans or projects means hard work at the start, because it could be 3 years of expenditure, then a kind of break even, then you break into the sunlight of profit. And if you haven't planned for, let's say, the 7-10 years, what is going to sustain you through the 3 years of loss, 1 year of break even, before you break into the profits? So you have to have patience, really, and strategic plans can help you gain patience to sustain the hard work. Management should seek to control the future. Management doesn't have to be passive in the face of world events. You can try to change them. For example, it's common in government or in politics for members of parliament or secretaries of state to be lobbied. In other words, if you have the airlines, they're worried about a new tax on airline passengers, they can all get together, they can go to the Department of Transport and they can say, look, if you put these taxes on, it's going to hurt our industry. Of course, you have to be careful to make sure that any pressure or lobbying is legal. Advertising is another way in which you can perhaps influence people's behavior, consumers' behavior and so on, and it may help to rescue products. And finally, strategic planning forces you to look ahead, forces you to sit back and think, what's happening in my organization, my industry? What's it going to be like in 5 or 10 years? What should we be doing? You're not going to see every pothole in the road. You're not going to avoid every possible item which might trip you up or make you go wrong. But surely going ahead with your eyes open, having looked into the future, is better than simply walking forward with your eyes closed, stumbling over everything that gets in your way. On the other side, there are certain disadvantages of strategic planning. Not so much disadvantages of planning, more the way it's done. And all of these reasons really are arising from too much planning. Okay? No one ever makes money by planning. You only make money or achieve output by getting up and doing. And the first paragraph here talks of paralysis by analysis. Managers who want just a little bit more information, another replay of the spreadsheet before they make the decision. Because once you made a decision, then risk happens. Your decision might be wrong, so they find more comfort in planning rather than doing. Inflexibility. We've talked about this a lot. No plan should be written in stone. You should remain open. The plan might have been wrong. The environment might change. The competitors change. You have to be willing to adapt. There is no shame in abandoning a plan. Too slow to react. Depending on the organisation, with many planning layers and committees to go through, it can be really slow to react to changing circumstances. IBM, with a very traditional, quite heavy bureaucracy, probably suffered from a slowness to react when micro or PCs came available. And similarly, too many planning meetings, too many planning committees has a real cost in time and money. 10 people sitting around for 2 days, you've got 20 days worth of work there. It's nearly a month's salary for one person, and it soon mounts up. Planning has its purpose, but it is not the whole purpose of any organisation.